Okay, Miss Julia, it's wonderful to see you, honey. You know,
Wonderful to see you too.
on my I've been teaching
A
this
100 years, that's what we're celebrating
well,
here, right?
53 here
Oh,
and
okay.
in public school. So 63, the next will be the 64. And I have a roll of honor of very special students. Not that many, believe me. And you're in that group. You know that?
Oh,
Okay,
thank you.
now what are you doing now, honey? Just real quick, are you an MD now?
I am not yet an MD, so I'm trying to live up to that potential, but I am soon to be entering my fourth year of medical school.
Your
So I
fourth.
actually took a little bit of time off. I went to Suncoast for high school down in West Palm Beach.
Okay.
Then I went to Brown University for undergrad, took a year off in between medical school or before medical school to work in UCLA on research there. And then I'm entering my fourth year of medical school back at Brown.
Okay. What so so from here you went to Suncoast. Take
Yes.
it from Suncoast on.
Okay.
Huh? Did you have a Suncoast good school?
Oh, it was an excellent school.
Excellent.
Yeah, I had a really strong education there. I think it also kind of exposed me to a lot more diversity and a lot more different ways of thinking. But I felt really, really privileged coming from the day school, especially within like English classes, and seeing how much better prepared I kind of felt to tackle high school, I think. So I think the education at Suncoast was really strong, but I think it made me appreciate how fundamental my education as a kid was. Um, and so I was in the International Baccalaureate program there.
Right.
And then I applied to Brown's 8-year undergrad medical school program, and I was accepted into that. So that's been the trajectory I've been on ever since.
Now, in your very quickly, just fill me in on your med school. You're in your fourth year of med school.
Mhm.
What is your uh, principal field going to be, honey?
So I'm thinking psychiatry, which has been
Psychiatrist. Okay. My son
it,
married a psychiatrist.
it's been a newer development. So I think when I entered undergraduate, I really liked the idea of psychology. I really appreciated the classes at Suncoast, actually, in the International Baccalaureate program that were a little bit more geared towards philosophy. So I gravitated towards that initially. But then once I got to undergrad, I started really caring about women's health and reproductive justice and work around that. So I then very much thought, oh, that means I'll be an OBGYN. And I kind of thought that up until this year when I had all my clinical rotations. And then I just really found that my interest in what I found most fulfilling was the field of psychiatry. And it kind of overlaps a lot. So I'm interested, for instance, in women's mental health, children's mental health. So there's a lot of ways to explore the field of psychiatry, which I'm really excited about.
All right. Now, going into psychiatry, of course, you will have to be careful that you don't get too involved with Freud or fraud. Okay.
Very true, very true. I was actually reflecting on that because as I've done more psychiatry experience, I've noticed that I have been very careful in my communications and selecting my words. And it brought me back when I was reflecting on this, that's like how important that was in your English class and how I remember just seeing that WC above a word for word choice. And I find myself reflecting on that now, that word choice is so important. And it's interesting. I mean, obviously within any specialty in medicine, communication is critical, but especially within psychiatry, because I feel like
Yeah.
you have patients being so vulnerable with you that your word choice matters.
So let me ask you this, honey. Uh, as far as after this year, then
Mhm.
you'll need to go to a residency.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Have you started applying to those already?
I will be in a couple of months.
In a couple
And so,
I don't want to
so
push you.
yeah, I'll cross that bridge of anxiety when I get there. No, I'm looking forward to starting that chapter of my career.
Yeah, it's when you were at Brown, undergraduate,
Mhm.
and even in med school, first couple years in that, did you have many courses in uh, philosophy, things like that?
I
In
took a couple classes in philosophy. I did one English class on comparative literature within medicine, which was very fascinating. I found myself at Brown kind of gravitating more towards the social sciences, like anthropology classes, things in that nature.
Did you take the anthropology classes?
Yeah, so I didn't major in anthropology. I majored in health and human biology, but that kind of was a whole hodgepodge of different classes that you could take.
Okay, well, listen, I haven't been teaching this year, so I've been doing so much reading and anything, but I got hooked into anthropology.
Oh, really?
And into Darwinism,
Mhm.
and even, when I was even in college, I got into this pursuit of, I took a course in philosophy, but the idea of determinism came up. In other words, do you have a free will? You know, honey, I'm 88 years old. I'm going to be 89 in July. I haven't made up my mind yet about it. I'm just hoping that before I croak, I at least know, I haven't made it up yet. Do we have a free will? I'm kind of tilting toward Darwinism and natural selection.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think one of the things that interests me with psychiatry, though, too, is I kind of find myself in the same camp as you, that it kind of depends what side of the bed I wake up, whether or not I believe in free will. But the brain is incredibly plastic in that we can continue to evolve. So maybe even if we're born without free will, I think we can kind of be shaped in different ways, which is really impressive as humans.
I swing back and forth. Sometimes I want to believe in it. So my one thing I've done is reading a part of, I think it was in The Selfish Gene. Read that book. Anyway, where this one statement that I didn't realize, that in the brain we have 1 billion cells.
Right.
Now, first, when I read that, I said, wait a minute. Was Mr. Wagner here when you were here, honey?
Oh, absolutely.
That's my son-in-law.
Yeah, I know.
I called him. I said, wait a minute. 100 billion. How could they measure that? How do you measure 100 billion? He says, well, they have to. So reading, I got into that, and I got into memetics, that whole thing. And I'd be calling him, well, what do they mean by this? And because I wasn't much in science when I was in high school, and I didn't take anything in college except zoology, working with a dead cat, I remember. So anyway, but I read where it said the frontal lobe cortex. They still don't know what the frontal cortex does. They know where we do with language, they know where mute, they know, but they don't. So I've come up with my own little theory. When I want to believe in free will, I say, well, in the frontal, that's where the idea for free, there's a little something in there.
And what do you tell yourself when you don't want to believe in free will? What's the frontal lobe then?
That's it. There's just no free will. And it's so funny, honey. Sometimes when they say, they did this series in the one book I read, where when you're ready to perform an action, this comes and then this comes, and then you perform the action. They found that the decision to make it, you do it. But when they did the experiments, the thing was performed before the decision. You didn't do it. It all came from up here and your past experiences and everything. You had no choice in that.
Right. Right. I was recently reading a book that was talking about a similar study, actually. How did they go about it? But it was just saying that we also kind of feed ourselves these narratives. We make up an excuse in our head as to why we did an action, but we do the action before we even have that story that we've told us. We're complicated animals, but we're animals nonetheless.
So you will be then, so you'll be graduating, and then you'll start, where are you giving any thought to where you want to do your internship? You're gonna come back home maybe? Here?
It's not out of the window of possibility, but I envision myself more in maybe New England. My sister, Allie, she lives in North Carolina right now in the Durham area. So looking at schools there, kind of gonna set my sights all over. And then that residency is 4 years too. So
My daughter-in-law, she was a psychiatrist. She
Mhm.
went to Florida, Gainesville.
Oh, really?
She went to Duke undergrad in Florida,
Oh,
and
wonderful.
she was in psychiatry, and from psychiatry, she went into, I don't know what she's into, but she's the head of a huge corporate type thing in a hospital and everything.
Good for her. Yeah, I think that's honestly one of the things that's interesting about psychiatry too. I think finally being in a place where I'm picking what I'm going into has allowed me to have a lot of internal reflection on kind of what brought me to this point. And I feel like for the past several years, I've let go of my writing skills and my reading skills just because I was so in the books of science and everything like that. And I feel like psychiatry really lends itself to writing and kind of things outside of traditional medicine. I mean, just the same with novels, it's all about exploring the human mind. So I'm kind of excited to get back into that.
You know who my favorite psychiatrist of all time is?
Other than your daughter-in-law?
Died here. No, he just died here last year, honey.
Mm.
Charles Krauthammer. You ever hear of him?
Mm-mm.
Never heard of Charles Krauthammer.
No, I should write that down.
He went, write it down, and he went to Harvard, okay, med school. And his freshman year, he was in a diving accident, paralyzed from the waist down.
Okay.
Got through med school with paralyzed from the waist down.
Wow.
Went into psychiatry, practiced psychiatry for a while, but then started writing and became one of the outstanding essayists in the United States. Just brilliant, just brilliant.
Really?
Really. You ever get a chance, pick up something, Charles.
Oh, I absolutely will.
And do some. He died here. Tell you who he was a classmate of. You might, did you know the Varades? Dr. Varades?
Oh, yes. She was my 7th grade English teacher.
Right.
Yeah.
Class.
That's funny.
He's my favorite psychiatrist.
Yeah, I'll have to look him up. That's great.
So tell me about Brown. My boy went to Brown for a half year.
Oh, really?
He was there for about a half year, and then he became a party boy, and they told him to take a semester off. So he came home, and I said, well, get into JC. You're not going to sit around, and did that. But then decided to go to Gainesville, finished up there, and went to law school in Florida and that. But he loved Brown. I said, yeah, you had a good time there.
Yeah, I mean, Brown has been an incredible place that I think it really allows for independence of the students. And I obviously don't have much to compare it to, but I think that's rings true at both the undergrad and medical school level, where they give you a lot of flexibility to kind of pursue your own passions and find different ways for those passions to intersect. So I find that even in the undergrad, I mean, I got to choose a lot of different classes, some that were more like literature heavy classes to go for my biology degree, which I really, really appreciated. And I think the med school does a good job too, kind of trying to shape more holistic physicians. So really kind of thinking about everything that goes into patient care. So I've had a wonderful experience. I mean, I could see myself staying there for residency. Absolutely. Providence is a great city. Yeah. Really enjoy it. So,
you know, you said that you had a terrific background in biology, right, honey?
I guess you could say that.
I'm just curious. You know, as I said, we've done 33 of these, I think, 3 of these interviews. And 4 of the people who did them with us, 3 of them are PhDs in philosophy, by the way.
Oh, wow.
One at Notre Dame, one at North Carolina, and another one at I forget. And they're all in the sciences. And I ask them, I always ask them about this question of determinism, you know. And I say, what is the thing in your philosophy department? What's the feeling? Because, you know, in different departments, I'm sure you have different ideas.
Right.
And so I was curious. But anyway, in biology, from what I've read in some of these books, though, there are the majority of the people in biology dismiss the mimetic people. Is that
Hmm.
true or not? They kind of dismiss it as just a this or that.
I mean, maybe I'm not too far into the biology, like pure biology realm. I feel like the things that I always pick up and find interesting kind of dabble in both genetics and memetics. Um, so I'm not sure if the ones that I followed have kind of poo-pooed on memetics.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that reminds me too of just what you've been saying. My favorite class for undergrad at Brown was biology of reproduction. And my professor loved the quote that a chicken is just an egg's way of making another egg. And it kind of doesn't sound like it makes too much sense and also very common sense, but kind of that idea that we are, like you said, the selfish gene where it's just all about kind of survival and reproduction.
And the one that's quote, so many quotes that stand out to me is biology enables, culture forbids.
I like that.
When we think of a lot of things going on in the world today,
Yeah.
that is certainly true, isn't it, honey?
Yes. That's funny.
Yeah. So listen, how's your mom and dad?
They're both doing well. I'm actually home for the first time. I don't know if you can see, I'm in my sister's bedroom. One of the perks of coming home is that you regress immediately to a child. So my room was too dirty to do this interview in naturally. But they're really good. I got vaccinated and they both were vaccinated. So this is my first time down in Florida since the pandemic started, which has been really, really nice. And so unfortunately going back up tomorrow, but they're both doing really well. We've been fortunate to have a good, healthy year, all things considered.
Pretty little brain of yours. The next time you're in town, give me a call. We'll go to lunch.
Oh, absolutely. That would be lovely.
Okay. If I'm still here, who knows? So anyway, okay, hon, let's reminisce a little bit. Palm Beach.
Would love to.
Okay. Give me some just impressions, some things that you remember that stand out for you, that any particularly dramatic. We had a lot of drama going on, I'm sure.
One thing that is immediately coming to my mind is, other than this year, do you still do the all or nothing quizzes?
The what, honey?
The all or nothing, where you either get 100 or a 0.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Listen, if you're going to know pronouns, and when we finish pronouns, you should never make a mistake.
That's fair.
You understand it. And, when I watch television and everything, and I hear these poor ex-athletes, and for some reason, honey, and it still works, they'll always make a mistake in the nominative case. So they'll always say, well, between he and she, not knowing that between is a preposition, but they for some reason, I call it the imperial nominative. For some reason, I sounds better than working man me.
Yes. I pick that up in emails too. And I'm like, no. I remember though, so typically you would have whoever scored highest or someone who scored highest hand them all out. But you were so almost some sick joy that I had gotten a 0 on the quiz that day, that it was I got to hand it out despite getting the 0. It made it be known to everyone that I had indeed gotten the 0.
Well, you didn't get too many zeros.
So maybe that's a good memory that comes to mind. I'm trying to think of what other ones.
How about the speech unit? Do you remember the speech
unit?
I
love the speech unit. I feel like that was a highlight of my education, point blank.
What was your final speech on, your 10-minute spech, you remember?
I think it was on New York City, I want to say, just New York City in general. But I loved the speech portion. Now that I'm bringing up Emily Dunklin, I remember she and I still keep in touch. We're very close still. But she and I really butted heads that quarter because we hated how we sounded when we were giving our speeches. We each thought that the other one was using this fake speech voice. So I remember that. But I love that, and kind of just being prepared to speak about a 1-minute topic. Oh, that's another memory too. I remember back when I was in 4th grade, I was so excited that I got to give a 1-minute speech when my sister was in 8th grade. And I gave it on a Miami Heat game. And I remember some of the boys in my sister's class gave me a standing ovation. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be so cool come 8th grade. I'm going to nail this unit.
Oh, boy. Yes, that was, my goodness, it seemed like just yesterday, huh?
Mhm.
And it was when, that's how many years ago now, honey? That's what?
Oh, geez, I graduated from 8th grade in 2009. So
Yeah.
wild.
Wow.
Yeah. It is bizarre. But I look back on the day school so fondly, or I guess Palm Beach Day Academy now, so fondly though. I mean, it was such a formative time for me. And I think really young education, like K through 8, really sets the stage for where you can go next step. So I feel like I was incredibly privileged to be there and learn from you and all the other teachers we had at that time. It was phenomenal.
So anyway, it's so good to see you. You look
It's
so
good to see
beautiful.
you. Thank you.
Promise me the next time you're in town, give me a call.
Absolutely.
Lunch or dinner, okay?
Absolutely. And happy almost, your birthday is July 6th, right?
July 6th, how'd you remember that?
Some parts up there still work.
Okay, hon, thank you again.
Thank you so much. It was lovely seeing you. Take care. And yeah, I'll keep in touch. So next time I'm down, I'll definitely reach out to you.
Definitely, honey, definitely.